This is a Hot Pie Original.
Feels as if each day common sense just gets further and further and further away. Common sense messaging seems to get further and further and further away. It's so confusing now and today. Nobody blames you for tuning out and moving on. Let's set this up because it gets really weird, and it gets really weird really quickly. On the same day, the President of the United States, who, let's be fair about this, his first year in office, maybe his entire time in office, is measured by the success in tackling the pandemic. There's nothing wrong with saying your job description, bud, is get us to a better place, help convince us to get to a better place, and then shut up and get out of the way. And we're not getting there. In fact, it feels as if we're starting to go backwards and we're just spinning around in circles. On the same day that the President of the United States reaches a point, and I don't mean to laugh, where he now is saying, and it's a federal, do we say offer? Do we say mandate? I don't even know what the terminology would be. On the same day that Joe Biden has the federal government offer you $100 to get the vaccine. That's $100 there, payable on the spot. Greg Abbott issues an executive order. If you are so naive to think that those two things aren't happening at the same time, then you need to move along and listen to Taylor Swift. I got nothing for you. So obviously, in the context of the pathetic world that we're living in, of a lack of common sense and common sense messaging, of course, Joe Biden is, I guess we can say, failing at the vaccine and the vaccine, not the rollout, because the rollout probably works and works pretty well, and getting us over the hump, he's failing at it. So he's scratching and clawing to try to find a way. So here comes $100. On the same day, the governor of Texas, I think we all agree he's angling for something, and I think we can all agree it's just not working. You can come up with any reason why he wants to be president or seems to want to be president, and it just doesn't seem to be getting any traction. That's not the point. The point is he makes news on the same day. Fine. Greg Abbott issues an executive order, which is reinforcing a previous executive order. The irony of people, including Greg Abbott, who like to say I'm less government, but then spend a lot of time issuing more government, is not lost on some of us. But here we go. Okay, so he issues an executive order reinforcing a previous order that says the state of Texas will fine any government entity from mandating masks or mandating vaccines. This is where it starts to get a little maddening. That's about Austin. That's what that's about. The lack of common sense is maddening. The lack of common sense messaging is most maddening. Is Greg Abbott pandering on his latest executive order? Of course. Almost every breath is pandering. The hypocrisy is pathetic as usual. Yes. On one hand, he's saying, of course, you can't say it. This is my point about common sense messaging, which is really getting maddening. It's beyond maddening. On one hand, he's saying today or yesterday afternoon, you make this call on this COVID stuff yourself. Okay. Of course, it's the same person who was saying the business can't make a call on this COVID stuff itself. All right. So there's complete hypocrisy every day, every which way. No doubt about it. But he's trying to argue again. You the individual, you the person who's going to take personal responsibility. You make the call on this stuff, and we will go after any government, i.e. Austin, that tries to get in the way of that. He doesn't say it that clearly, but he spends 6 minutes trying to say that. You make the call on this stuff. As usual, the issue of freedom in the state of Texas, your personal responsibility, which doesn't apply to a business's personal responsibility, is the state of Texas pushing back on Austin. There's a bigger problem, I would argue today, than his pandering. In fact, I'll say this, I don't have a problem with what he's saying and even how he tries to say it. And that is, even though he doesn't do it this way, listen, I see the science every day. And he does. And he has from the very beginning. I see the science every day, and I can't micromanage you. I won't micromanage you. And I'll make sure other people don't micromanage you. You take care of it yourself. He spent 6 minutes and a lot of flowery terminology and a lot of code words for trying to say that. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with somebody saying, you know what, today it's time for you knuckleheads, to take personal responsibility. I don't have a problem with someone saying that. And I don't get that it's not that much of a mistake. Just say it, man. Just say it. Point at the camera and say, knucklehead, it's on you. I'm out. Okay, but we won't do that. What he won't say is ridiculous. And I don't understand why. And I don't understand why you don't understand why. What he won't say. If you really believe in this, and you don't, and neither does he, but if you really want to pretend you believe in, listen, everybody, you've got to be on your own. I've studied this. I hear it every day. I get the medical reports every day, and it sounds worse than it is, but you really need to take this on yourself. Okay, fine. Then we've got another argument, which is fine too. But it's what he won't say that is amazing. It's what he goes out of his way not to say that is amazing. So Governor MAGA Hat, and I don't think it's working for him, and I think we can argue and you can offer up why you don't think it's working for him. He goes on CNBC to say I'm less government but have more government, have an executive order about government. An executive order to reinforce the previous executive order. Okay, he goes on there to sound tough. We all know what this is about. So he goes on CNBC, which is ironic, but he gets the FaceTime. He gets it. He's getting a chance again. He goes on CNBC, and I want you to follow this. Just follow this, because what is not said is what's so maddening. We won't micromanage you is the attempted message, but please follow him and know what he won't say.
Now by phone to discuss. Governor, thanks for joining us. Much appreciated.
My pleasure, Wilfred.
So talk us through this announcement. You are banning government entities from requiring a mask, but you're not banning masks.
Well, that's exactly correct. However, I need to point out, as it concerns government entities, this is really just a reaffirmation of an executive order that I issued on March the 2nd. So on March the 2nd, I issued an order effective March the 10th that's been in place for 2 months now that bans any government in the state of Texas from requiring masks. And also at that time, I opened up Texas 100%. After that, there were some local governments that chose to continue to impose mask mandates, and they were doing so in contradiction of my original executive order. So we not only reaffirmed that and made it clear, we also, in my order today, put penalties in against any local government or government official that acts contrary to my executive order. What it did in schools is that schools, they were allowed by the Texas Education Agency to continue to require masks. That quote requirement will end on June the 4th. However, both for schools as well as all other operations, people are always allowed to make the choice on their own to wear masks. And so anybody can wear a mask if they want to. It's just that it's a decision to be made by Texans, not to be forced by government.
I get that final message in your answer, Governor, but I guess at points during the pandemic in the last year, people have been able to be fined for not following COVID restrictions. As per your executive order, any government entity that tries to impose a mask mandate is the one that can now be fined. So is the general gist, the general message that Texans should take from this that masks are not really wanted across Texas anymore?
Well, we're making clear that government cannot require people to wear a mask. And let's be clear about what happened after I issued my executive order back in March. The numbers continue to get better, and I'm going to tell you what I reported 2 days ago, and that is for the first time ever in our reports, we reported 0 COVID deaths, the fewest COVID cases in over 13 months, the lowest 7-day COVID positivity rate ever, and the lowest COVID hospitalizations in 11 months. And so the COVID situation in Texas is such that we can and should be open 100%. We can eliminate government-required masks, but we always encourage people to make their own choice for themselves and for their own safety. It's just that government should not be dictating what Texans should do.
John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce, now in all 50 states and several retail outlets as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to let this social media rock star chef walk us through 4 different sauces, and then I'll taste, and we'll tell everyone why they should buy. You can give the science behind these, and then I'll make the simple recommendation. Go to atxhotsauce.com. All right,
I don't think anybody's heard the website.
Yeah, I know.
By you, Jeff,
I've never heard that.
It is atxhotsauce.com.
I'll say
I got that one right.
345 times, atxhotsauce.com. So let's do it.
I brought 4 flavors here, and we're going to test your palate today.
Okay.
And I only brought 4 because I didn't think you could handle 5 or 6.
Yes,
probably a smart move. Yeah. And so the first one we're going to try here, it's called Beet Heat. And just like the name implies, it has beets in it. It's made with red Fresno peppers. Red Fresnos are red peppers that are they're hotter than a jalapeno and a little bit less than a serrano. So not super hot here, just a lot of really good flavor. So we're going to start with this one, and then we're going to move up the chain.
Okay. I've had the Beet Heat, but okay.
Yeah, we're going to try it though.
It goes well with a cab. All right, Jeff's savoring Beet Heat.
I'll even do it with you, so that should be all right. Now remember, it is hot sauce.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's hot sauce. Trust me, man.
Wait,
is
that one hot to you?
No, a little.
Yeah. The great thing with the fermentation process is you get a bunch of the flavor right up front.
Yeah.
And then the heat comes, but then it dissipates pretty quickly, especially with the red Fresnos. This is not a very spicy one, but it is a very tasty one. Goes on great on sandwiches.
Beet Heat.
Beet Heat. B-E-E-T. Heat.
All right. Go to atxhotsauce.com.
That's right.
The CDC is recommending schools keep the COVID-19 guidance, mask wearing and distancing, Governor Abbott. Why not just go with CDC guidance? Why isn't the CDC going to have trouble getting trust if governors are just going about it their own way against the studies?
Great question, and you need to know the answer, and that is governors don't have a whole lot of trust in the CDC. All of the direction that we've gotten throughout the entire pandemic has been contradicted seemingly on the same day or multiple days after that, and there have been completely different messaging from CDC under both presidents. And so governors have lost trust and confidence in CDC. Remember this, Sarah, if you would, when I made the announcement that Texas was opening 100%, Dr. Fauci, the CDC, the President Biden himself said that I was a Neanderthal for opening Texas up 100%. Well, I proved that Neanderthals won when we went down to 0 COVID deaths, the lowest positivity rate, the lowest COVID cases, et cetera. Everyone who criticized us for opening up, they were wrong. And so they didn't know the science or the math behind my decisions, and they continue to vacillate themselves upon what they think the correct standard is. Remember what CDC Director Walensky said initially. She had one rule for masks and a different rule for masks. Schools should be open, that she said schools should be closed. And so they vacillate from a week-to-week basis, and so there is really no trust in the CDC anymore.
Unfortunately, I think a lot of people would agree with you, and you're vindicated on that initial mask decision, Governor, but still on the schools. Most students aren't vaccinated, so why shouldn't they have to wear masks to protect themselves?
So for almost all students who are the most at risk, as well as the teachers and staff who are at risk of COVID, they all have the capability of getting a vaccination, and they choose to do so before the mask requirement is eliminated. But also, they all have the choice to continue to wear a mask if they feel as if that's in the best interest of their safety.
Okay, makes your face hurt, and I guess people have just checked out. First of all, yes, I don't have a problem. I'll sit here and argue. I don't necessarily have a general problem with him saying, I won't micromanage you. It should be local control, which is exactly the way it's supposed to be for schools, which is precisely just the opposite of what is suggested for local municipalities. We don't really believe in local control. He doesn't believe in, well, no. He might believe in it. He just won't say it because it doesn't play well. So we don't really believe or have a consistent policy, him or anyone else for that matter, but he's the one in charge of health restrictions and health mandates. It is on him. That is his prerogative. So we're not consistent at all about local control. We don't really follow it. We don't believe in it. Why won't he just say, this is what's most amazing. He's the person saying, I know the science. I get scientific information all the time. I've been right about the science. That's what he's saying. Why can't he say, before I address the lack of micromanaging, before I address my executive order on top of other executive orders, when I pretend to say I'm less government, can I just say none of this is an issue if you'll just get vaccinated? If you'll just get vaccinated, we'd be talking about the stock market right now and not this. If you, the people of Texas and the people listening to me anywhere, will just get vaccinated, we're not going to have any of these conversations. So before you even hear me issue an executive order, since I'm privy to the science, you need to go get vaccinated because it's stupid not to. Why won't he just say that? I mean, he's Mr. Science. He's Mr. Information. He has access to all the data, he says. So why doesn't, before he gives the sermon on, I'll pretend to be less government, but really be more government, why doesn't he just say, hey, everybody, let's all say it together. Just go get vaccinated. It's free and it's convenient. Just do that. And I don't have to do anything with any other executive order. I think what sucks about this whole thing is the lack, one, of our common sense, as usual, our laziness, our lack of common sense and laziness, but the fact that we are so against just getting a simple common sense message, he won't even do it. There's no reason not to get the vaccine. There are a few exceptions of people medically. There are a few people out there who are really, really, really into it. And this is coming from a nuts and twigs guy. There are few people out there that are really, really into, I'm not putting anything foreign in my body. They're consistent. There's not many of them, but they are consistent and they are the way they are. And there are people, rare exceptions, that for medical reasons probably can't. Got it. The rest of us don't have a good reason. We really don't. Convenience isn't one. Expense isn't one. Whatever the reason, he won't just say, let's just do the common sense thing. Before I have to ever I don't ever want to have a COVID conversation again. Neither does the President of the United States, and neither does my mentor, Donald Trump. You know how we're going to avoid that is just go get the vax, man. Everyone that can hear me who hasn't received the vax, just go do it. Do it. Why won't he say that? Why? Why? Why all the executive orders? Why all the fighting about Austin, with Austin, about masks? Why not the first thing out of your mouth every single day is, this isn't an issue if you'll just go take care of it. Just go take care of it. I mean, why not? That's what's maddening. That's what's maddening about the messaging, is that apparently, for a man who has a lot of data, and I don't deny that he does, and I'll say it again, I don't have a problem with the mantra being personal responsibility. I have a problem with owning the badge of I'm about personal responsibility and not really ever saying it, or not really even putting it first. Put personal responsibility first and have it come out of your mouth first, and just say, hey, everybody, go take care of this. You listen to me right now. Listen, you don't have a good excuse. You don't. And I'm tired of us arguing about this. I'm trying to say we want to stay out of your face. Make it easy for me. Just go get the freaking vaccine, lazy. Go do it. He won't say that. He won't go there. I know somebody's going to argue, but Jeff, at one point he said blah, blah, blah. Why isn't it the first thing out of his mouth every time? He's bragging about his information. He's bragging about his access to information. He knows he doesn't trust the CDC. I know what's best. Then just say, go get the vaccine. I'm not going to put a government mandate on you because I don't need to put the government mandate on you, people of Texas. Go do it. Just go do it. Say it. I dare him to say that clearly. Obviously, he won't. Obviously, it's not a message that wants to be received. And obviously, somebody somewhere. And that's what I don't get. I don't get it. Don't understand this about you. You preach personal responsibility. And I'm now talking to people, not the governor. We preach personal responsibility, yet we are taking horrible care of ourselves. The same people who have high cholesterol are whining about what they put in their body. What are you talking about? You're not consistent about your body. Perfect example. Another perfect example. And this is what's maddening. And this is what should be coming out of him. And that is the frustration. He does this interview and I don't know why he can't say, you know what, as governor of Texas, I'd much rather be talking about 100 different things. I'd much rather be talking about executive orders of 100 different things. And this would be so easily solved if the people listening would just go do the right thing. I'm about personal responsibility. I'm not about the CDC. I'm not about big government. I'm not about getting in your business. Make that easy for me. Just go get the vax. Got it? Go do it. And you don't have to hear me talk about this again. That message is not delivered, and apparently it can't be delivered because people don't want it. Somebody somewhere doesn't want that message, and they're winning. They're winning. And no, none of us should believe that person, although there's a few of them who are really, really, really into earth and not taking medicine. People who just flat out want to fight the CDC or fight Steve Adler or fight somebody just won't take the message. It is maddening. It's maddening that the message is not delivered, and it's maddening that the message is not received. This is a stupid day of offering us $100 and him having to pass an executive order. Why? Because our neighbor won't go do it. And they couldn't give you a good reason why. The person having their third cheeseburger, talking about what's in their body. Right. Third cocktail, and you're going to whine about what's in your body? They're, oddly enough, this reminds me, his pitch. And I don't even know what you take away from his pitch. I don't know what you're supposed to take away from his pitch, except I got that I'm not going to let Austin make some noise about dictating some rules. That's what I think he was talking about. This is laughable. The quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, Ryan Tannehill, played at Texas A&M. This is a perfect example of where if it's going to be on us, our common sense just doesn't quite work out. He says the only reason why I'm getting vaccinated is because the NFL's making me and they're putting so much pressure on me. I'll get the vaccine. This is coming from a guy who probably in 1 year alone has been in front of and dealt with more doctors, more x-ray machines, more anesthesia, more corticosteroid shots, more x-rays, more anesthesia, has had more medical care, scientific medical care to make sure that he is at the top of his profession saying, I don't want this vaccine. The only reason I'm going to do it is because you're making me. Wait, what? I don't know which types of surgeries he's had. I'm willing to bet he's had plenty of surgeries. So for him to go under anesthesia is okay, but for him to get the vaccine, not okay. It just we don't make any sense. And the messaging, of course, doesn't make any sense. What would be so awful if Greg Abbott, he has this information, who's owned since the day that he went into a Mexican food restaurant in Lubbock. Remember that day? He was proven, and he's bragging about this, and Joe Biden did call him a Neanderthal, and he was proven to be right. He was right, mostly. And he sat there by himself in this weird setup and said, forget all this stuff we're going to open up. And then the numbers, he says, I follow the numbers. I have all the data. We're in a good place. For a guy who's saying we're in a good place, I have all the data. Why can't he just say, and those of you that aren't vaccinated, just go get the vax. I'm going to leave everyone alone. I'm going to talk about, property taxes. Wait, that never comes up. I want to talk about something important like property taxes. So just go get the vax, all of you. Anyone who's for some reason you've made up in your mind, you can't get the vax, you don't want the vax, go do it. Just go do it. So we can talk about property taxes. That message is not allowed. That's what's maddening, right? That's what's maddening. There is no common sense application to us, and there's no common sense messaging, and it's not allowed because it apparently is the devil. He wins more political points by going on CNBC in some snippy interview that really was kind of pointless, except to give him FaceTime. He goes on CNBC to talk about executive orders because he doesn't really want to have to do executive orders, but you've made me do executive orders. And nowhere in the conversation is common sense even entered with us and his messaging to us. I don't get it. I mean, this anti-vax thing is not for a lot of us is not making any sense. It's not. Why can't it just be something to check off your list? Why? That's it. It's free, done, out of the way. That way you don't kill my dad or your neighbor's dad. No, you're not. I'm not going to get sick. I'm not going to end up in the hospital. We all now know it's not about you who's maybe moderately healthy or young. It's about not killing your neighbor's dad or your dad. There. Check it off the list, to-do list. But we won't do it. And he won't send the message. How about this? 20% of polled healthcare workers have no plans to become vaccinated. Wait, what? Then you should be fired. This is a Kaiser Family Foundation. 20% of polled healthcare workers have no plans to become vaccinated, and 12% have yet to decide. Add those up, and that's a fairly big number of healthcare workers. 25% of hospital workers, according to WebMD, who are in contact with patients still had not received a first dose. Did anyone else notice what he was not saying? Why could he not be that clear? Joe Biden tried to be that clear, and that's coming from a guy who's never clear. He's even now reached the same day he says, oh, look, just take $100, man. Here's $100. Would you just do this, please? And Greg Abbott, could he not have said the same thing before he said everything else?
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.